I yield 5 minutes to my friend, my Georgia colleague, the gentleman, Mr. Lewis.
The gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my friend for yielding. Mr. Speaker, I rise with deep concern that this president has chosen to escalate the war in Iraq instead of charting a course towards peace. Today, I'm reminded of the words of Martin Luther King Jr. when he spoke out against the war in Vietnam on April 4th, 1967. He said, "The world now demands a maturity of this nation that we may not be able to achieve. It demands that we admit that we have been wrong from the beginning of our venture in Vietnam. We could substitute Iraq, and that our action had been detrimental to the people of that nation." Mr. Speaker, war is messy. War is bloody. It tends not just to hide the truth, but to sacrifice the truth. And the truth is that this was a war of choice and not a war of necessity. It was ill-fated from its inception at the highest level of government, and persisting in error will not fix a policy that was fundamentally flawed from the very beginning. Thousands of our sons and daughters have been left dead on the battlefield, and tens of thousands are changed forever, wounded physically and spiritually by the brutality of war. Our soldiers are the best men and women in the world, willing to sacrifice all they have at a moment's notice to protect our freedom. They do not deserve to pay with their lives for the errors of this administration. Mr. Speaker, we will never find the answer to the problem we have created in Iraq down the barrel of a gun. The lasting solution to this crisis will emerge from skillful diplomacy, not military might. The good book said, "Come, let us reason together. We must never, ever be afraid to talk. What harm comes from sitting down with Syria, Iran, and our allies in the Middle East to help bring the warring parties together?" John F. Kennedy once said, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." My greatest fear is that the young people growing up in the Middle East would never forget this American invasion. My greatest fear is that they will grow up to hate our children, our grandchildren, and generation yet unborn because of what we are doing today in Iraq. Yes, we must maintain a strong national defense. We must defend our borders. We must bring an end to terrorism, but not at the expense of our democracy, not at the expense of the very principles this nation was founded upon. I want to close by asking a question of old, Mr. Speaker. What does it profit a great nation to gain the whole world and lose its soul? Gandhi once said, "It is either non-violence or non-existent." And Martin Luther King Jr. would say, "We must learn to live together as brothers and sisters or perish as fools." It is better to heal than to kill. It is better to reconcile than to divide. It is better to love than to hate. That is why we must vote for this resolution. We must do more. We must not place more of our young people in harm's way. We must not continue to make our soldiers sitting ducks in a civil war. As members of Congress, we must continue to stand up, speak up, and speak out. It is our duty, it is our right, it is our moral obligation. We must find a way to get in the way until we bring our young men and women home, and not to continue to escalate this war. Vote for this resolution. It is the right thing to do. We must send a possible and strong message to this administration to stop this madness. I yield back my time.